Here at God, Family, and Guns, we are a light in a very dark world, and we fight uphill, battling against algorithms and demonetizations. And how we battle against this is oftentimes support from you, so please consider being a patron to God, Family, and Guns. That link is below. I want to take a moment and talk about something that a lot of people aren't really talking about, and that's the sheer volume of U.S. military guns and ammo that is showing up on the streets of the U.S. And every now and then we hear a little story here or there, but when you put it all together, it's really kind of eye-opening. And that's what this video is about, because just recently they found 500,000 rounds of NATO ammo. Now we'll talk about this ammo here shortly, but they found 500,000 rounds of mostly 9mm NATO and 5.56 NATO in a storage locker. They say it was stolen, but they haven't said who it's stolen from. Now there was also a brick of C4 explosives in there, so we can begin to see who it was possibly stolen from. Now let's go back even further. In May of this year, there were several airmen from Fairfield Air Force Base that were selling tens of thousands of rounds of ammo that was stolen from the Air Force Base. In addition to that, in the last 10 years, there's been 2,000 military weapons missing from the U.S. military, and including 70% of those are automatic rifles, or at least 3-round burst rifles. 20% of those are handguns, so a few machine guns, few grenade launchers, few mortars, and some C4 explosives are all missing from the military. Now, none of this has been reported, and the reason they say it's not reported is because missing guns and ammo are typically not reported to Congress. It would take something like a missing missile launcher or a missing tank or something like that to say, okay, now we got to report this to Congress. But when 1,800 fully automatic rifles come up missing, that's not apparently enough to alert Congress. Now, with that being said, well, what about these? How did we even know about these guns if they weren't reported? Well, because when they started to show up on the streets, they would then do traces. So, for example, in Albany, New York, they recovered a Beretta M9, and when they did a trace of it, they found that there were several other crimes linked to that handgun. But when they traced it, they found that it was actually, according to military records, locked up, safe and secure in an armory at Fort Bragg. But of course it was not. It was in the police evidence locker at that point. But the U.S. military, according to their records, it was actually there. So this is what we're finding. If military weapons are found on the streets, it's kind of pushed under the rug and we don't really talk about it, or it's just covered up altogether by the U.S. military. So why is all this? Why is at this point we're talking millions of rounds of ammo. Earlier this year there was lots of ammo stolen from a facility in North Carolina, and we reported on that. But now what we're talking is 500,000 rounds are now recovered in Florida. Well, what is that ammo? Well, all we know about it is the photo that the police tweeted, and now they're not sharing any more info. But what we do know about it is that it is mostly sterling 9mm NATO ammo and some sterling 5.56. Well, what is that? Well, that comes from a company called Turok in Turkey. More than 50% of Turok's business is with militaries and police around the world, most of which in the U.S. What they make: 9mm NATO, 5.56 NATO, 7.62 NATO, and some 7.62 by 39 ammo as well for, again, military and polices around the world. Now, 500,000 rounds of it has shown up in a storage locker in Florida. So what does all this mean? Well, let's put it all together. What we're seeing is the U.S. military reporting nothing. Nothing's missing. Nothing's going on here. Don't look. Don't mind the man behind the curtain. Don't look here. Don't look at our records because there's nothing going on here. And if you did look at the records, they're probably a lie, as we've seen with the weapons that they're finding on the street. I mean, clearly those guns that they're finding on the street, they're not in Fort Bragg. So what does all this mean? Well, what it means is that thousands of military weapons are on the streets of the U.S. Why are they on the streets? Well, nobody really knows. In addition to that, millions of rounds of NATO ammo also on the streets of the U.S. That we know. We know that thousands of guns and millions of rounds are on the streets of the U.S. right now, just in the last 10 years. We also know that the military is saying that there's nothing wrong here. There's nothing to see here. And we also know that the U.S. government is not talking about it at all. That we know. And the little bit you're going to find on this missing and stolen ammo is going to be just little tiny 4-paragraph little articles here and there, because that's what they're releasing to us. I don't believe, if the police department didn't tweet that picture and pat themselves on the back for finding it, I don't think we'd even know about it at this point. So I think it was kind of an accidental tweet, like, oh no, somebody tweeted a picture of it. So other than that we know. We know that, thousands of guns missing from the U.S. military that they report are there, but we know they're missing because they're showing up on the streets of the U.S. And we're not talking just Bred M9s. We're talking fully automatic rifles, or at least 3-round burst rifles, machine guns. They just they don't conclude rifles with machine guns. We're probably talking like M60s, that kind of thing. Grenade launchers, mortars, and apparently some C4. So what's going on, U.S. military? And yet at the same time, they don't want us to be able to defend ourselves against that kind of thing that's out there. Clearly making it into the hands of the criminals of the United States. So any thoughts or insight you might have on that, definitely put that below. I wanted to take a time and just kind of pull all this together and say, wait a second, let's just quit putting this in the dark. Let's shine some lights on this for a second and see what's going on there. So again, that's what this is about. Any insight, put it below. If you like this video, click like and subscribe. Feel called to support this channel with Patreon. That link is also below. But the most important part of this channel is we take prayer requests. So please don't ever hesitate to send that in. Thank you for watching this episode of God, Family, and Guns. And as always, love God, love your family, love guns.